G'day, ZiggyD here, coming at you from my new HD Logitech webcam. Comes in 1080p and 720p, much better than my old built-in webcam on my Mac. I don't have my new computer yet, but I do have a few parts that I've started collecting for it, and it should be arriving in a few days. But I wanted to test out this new webcam on my video I was making today. So, Path of Exile's patch 0.11.2 launched today, only about an hour ago actually, and I finally had a chance to look at the new Ranger Passives tree live. And in this video I wanted to take a look at the tree with you guys, give you some of my first impressions, some of my analysis of the changes, and tell you a bit about what's actually changed, and then maybe give some predictions, some early predictions on what I think might happen with Rangers, over the coming weeks and months in Path of Exile. Overall, this patch is huge, it's massive, it's got some other really big stuff in it, but I just want to talk about the Ranger stuff today, and the Ranger changes alone are more than worth one patch like this. Grinding Gear Games, not failing to disappoint at all. So let's jump over to the Ranger passive tree, and we'll take a look at the main things that have changed. So, first up, Evasion and Life are now combined together with a bunch of different nodes. So firstly, we have Evasion and Life nodes here. This one here has base life even, which is fantastic early in the game, and multiplies out later in the game as well. We have % increased max life across these nodes here. And then as we move up into this area here, we've also got more Evasion and Life combined nodes here, and the fantastic Revenge of the Hunted, which includes extra physical damage as well. Now a little side note about that increased physical damage is it's not melee physical damage, or it's not specifically said to be bow physical damage, it's just physical damage. So that means it'll apply to things like Ethereal Knives and Bear Traps. So that's a really cool node, and it includes a ton of Evasion and max life as well, 10% max life there. Pretty big change there. So the idea of combining these Evasion and Life nodes is a really good one, because to make a pure Evasion based build in the past, and this is something I've tried to do and had mixed success trying to do it, but it was always very difficult to achieve. And to do this, to make a successful Evasion based build, you had to have really high life, because essentially you need to have that life to tank that occasional hit that you do have. Now there are a lot of benefits to this, because it means that you take an occasional hit, it takes a lot of life away from you, but you can quickly heal that up before you'll take the next hit. And because Evasion is somewhat reliable as well in the way that it's calculated, this worked out pretty well. And now that they're combining Evasion and Life together, Grinding Gear Games is saying, we understand that to make a good Evasion based build you have to have a fair amount of life, so we've chucked a bunch of life in different Evasion nodes here. So we still have our pure Evasion nodes over here, like with Reflexes and Evasion nodes over here, but now in the Ranger starting area especially, the Ranger is a tanking evading machine, an evasion tank machine now with those combined nodes, and that's a really good overall defensive change, and one that I'm keen to play around with. So the next one is that we have some amazing new block nodes. Firstly, we have the Precise Interception node here with 4% increased shield block chance and increased defenses from the equip shield. We have another 2% block here, and then another weapon, node here, weapon Artistry, which gives us an extra 4% block chance while dual wielding or holding a shield. Now these three nodes combined together give you 10% extra block. Now another node in the Ranger start area that is really good for block based builds is Heart of the Oak, which gives you a 30% chance to avoid being stunned. So one of the big problems with blocking a lot of hits is you have that block, that stun animation play. And that can make it very, you can essentially get stun locked if you have a very high block chance. So you need a lot of stun recovery. Now this 30% chance to avoid being stunned is interesting, but 30% chance on here is really good. And you've also got these additional 15% increased block and stun recovery nodes on either side. So these three together feel to me like, I'm not sure how this particular passive here will calculate with the other ones yet. Might need to do some testing on that, but it feels like these three nodes here will be almost enough to max out your block essentially and not have to worry about being stun locked. So that's really cool. Now an interesting thing to note about these block changes here, so we've got this 10% block chance here. Just down in the duellist area we have another 10% block chance here, so we've got the 6%, 2% and 2%. Now with this 10% and this 10%, and then the helmet Bringer of Rain with its 10%, or I think it's 10% increased block chance, and then with another shield like Crest of Perandus, we're going to have max overcapped block chance on the Ranger, just with those three, 4 things. So very easy now with a Ranger to make a really heavy block based Ranger, and combined with Evasion that can be quite nice as well. So I'm pretty excited for that. Now the next thing is that we have some excellent new melee nodes. Now Aspect of the Panther, which is, I believe, where is Aspect of the Panther? There we go. Aspect of the Panther with its increased physical damage, increased attack speed, life, and move speed, which is also pretty nice, is a really good one by itself. And then Weapon Artistry, again, is another really good melee one. Now we have a bunch of other really good melee changes in this particular area, but those are the two main key ones. Now we also just have, in addition for melee, a lot of added survivability in general in the Ranger starting area now. Like as I said, with combining Evasion and Life, that's a lot of extra survivability. We have Heart of the Oak, which is a very nice survivability node, just by itself as well. And, you know, we've got these extra block chance and things like that, so we could be seeing some excellent new melee builds coming out of Ranger, but I'll go into my predictions in a little bit. And then the next major change is that there's been some overall bow buffs. So Aspect of the Eagle and its cluster is the most impressive one, and it's probably the one your eyes are drawn to as well, because it looks pretty cool. I like the way they've set this out. But Aspect of the Eagle gives you increased physical damage with bows, increased accuracy rating, so I do think we're going to see some accuracy builds, increased life and move speed as well. Now these nodes around here are also pretty good, so we've got some physical damage attack speed nodes here, we've got attack speed crit chance nodes, and then we've got just big physical damage nodes. So I think we might be seeing some like split arrow builds or crit physical based builds with you know, bow rangers coming in the future, and this particular node cluster here is really good. Now in general, it's also much easier now to cap out accuracy thanks to some other changes that have come in this patch, so that could be very good for bow based builds. It means they won't have to get a lionized glare potentially, and they won't have to go all the way across the passive tree to pick up Resolute Technique. And that means, you know, they can start focusing on things like crit in addition to their accuracy, and go for crit accuracy builds instead of, you know, instead of Resolute Technique builds, which should give us a bit more diversity. Now, the final change I want to talk about before I make some predictions is the Iron Reflexes nerf. Now, this one's pretty subtle. It's just one line in the tree, and essentially what they've done is they've removed the dex calculation on Evasion when it's converted to Iron Reflexes. So previously, if you had a ranger that had like 300 dex, and you had a ton of evasion-based armor on, and then you converted to Iron Reflexes, not only would you be converting all of that evasion to armor, you'd also be getting an armor bonus from the increase from your dexterity to the evasion before the calculation applies, if that makes sense. A little bit confusing sounding. Essentially, you were getting a lot of extra armor from your dexterity because it was calculated before converting over to Iron Reflexes. However, now with Iron Reflexes, this dex won't calculate into your armor, so you're going to essentially, if you're playing at the moment a ranger or a heavily dex-based build that uses Iron Reflexes and goes for that armor conversion, which was a lot of rangers in the past, you're going to be losing quite a bit of armor now. So that's a bit of a nerf, but to me it makes a lot more sense, because now Iron Reflexes is going to be someone that mostly armor-based builds are going to be going for as a bit of a, you know, a bit of extra armor, or you might have duelists that are, you know, kind of split and going for Iron Reflexes to just rely on armor. But it means now that rangers will be more incentivized to go for evasion, and with all these other evasion buffs that happen, and with the dodge buffs, acrobatics buffs in the last patch, we should be seeing evasion builds even more now, which is really exciting because I really like evasion builds. So now I'll go over 3 basic predictions. Now these are pretty basic, and you know, who's to say that these will even be close to what will happen, but just based on my initial first impressions of the changes, this is what I think we might start seeing from Rangers. First one is one I'm pretty excited about, and one I might play once I finish my Infernal Blow Marauder, because I'm going to go over to Onslaught after that, and maybe I might, I'm trying to pick a build, I'm thinking Ranger will be the way to go, and that is Ethereal Knives Ranger builds. Now, there's been quite a few Ethereal Knives built in the past, Marauders, Shadows. It feels like it's a spell that's been pretty done to death, really. And a few people have tried Ranger with Ethereal Knives, and, you know, it can work, because it is a dexterity, intelligence-based gem. You're kind of in an alright spot for it. But I think now Ethereal Knives Rangers have a lot of potential. I think we're going to be seeing quite a few of them. Maybe, we'll see. But it's one I'm interested to build. And now the reason for this is, the first thing is Ballistic Mastery. Now this gives you projectile damage, which affects Ethereal Knives. Dexterity, which is just always nice. And then 20% increased projectile speed. Now in projectile speed with Ethereal Knives increases the range of Ethereal Knives, because it makes each dagger thrown move faster and go further. It's exactly the same as Freeze Pulse, if you're familiar with that. So that means that we'll be getting extra range on our EK as a ranger with this node here. So that's a fantastic node to get. And it's also grouped around some other projectile damage nodes that will be excellent for EK. And then the next one, if I can find it, is Revenge of the Hunted. Now, as I said, this is a fantastic survivability node, but that 4% increased physical damage is also a buff to EK. So because, you know, EK is a physical based spell, it will benefit from just these physical damage bonuses. And there's actually not very many of these on the passive tree. Most of them are either melee physical damage with weapons, or or physical damage with bows, things like that. So it's pretty hard to get physical damage, pure physical damage like this, but this node can give it to you. Only 4%, but it actually could make a pretty big difference to the amount of damage you can put out. So that's pretty exciting, and it's also a great survivability node, so you'll be likely picking it up anyway. And then the other change that I think will make EK ranges quite good, and will help some EK builds in general as well, is that spell block can now protect against reflected spell damage. So combine this with all of the shield, as I said, the extra shield nodes that you've got, and you have access to, the duellist. We could be seeing some like EK shield using EK caster ranges that can now survive reflect much better thanks to this spell block change, and because of all the other block changes in the range area. So that's a build my mind's starting to tick about, and that's the thing I really love about Path of Exile, is when it starts getting me thinking about something like, ooh, how can all these things connect together? How can we make an interesting build out of this? And I know I'm probably on the track of something interesting if my brain's starting to constantly think about that. Still want to finish my Infernal Blow Marauder because I'm having a lot of fun with it, but maybe that's what I'll do next. Anyway, my next prediction is small, and that was probably my major prediction. My next prediction is that bow builds are likely going to become more diverse, and we could start seeing more builds use crit, accuracy, evasion-based defense, and mana instead of blood magic. So, in general, we're going to see, I think, a big increase in the diversity of ranger bow builds, which is really, really cool, because in the past, pretty much, we had a good amount of variety early on in Path of Exile, but then a lot of rangers just started going blood magic, and blood magic became the norm for a lot of rangers. Now, blood magic's really good. It's a great way to play the game, especially if you're a beginner, and it takes thinking about mana and mana costs out of the equation, essentially. But now we could start seeing a lot more diversity, especially with crit and accuracy changes as well. With the accuracy changes, I think we could start seeing a lot more crit-based builds, and that could be pretty interesting. With the extra survivability in the range area as well, could be quite nice. And also pure evasion bow builds, it's such a shame in the past that these just haven't worked very well, but these could be becoming much more interesting now. So that's pretty cool. A lot more variety in bow builds overall, I predict. And then my final prediction is that we're going to start seeing some amazing melee builds, probably using block, pure evasion, and crit and accuracy as well, taking advantage of all of that. So the ranger to me has always felt like a really cool melee character. Like, they could have had excellent melee skills, either through dual wielding or just being a very fast moving, very fast attacking warrior. And we have seen some good lightning strike ranger builds especially, but I think we're going to start seeing some much more amazing ones now coming out in the future. And with all these block changes, with all these survivability changes and the changes to evasion, everything's just lining up for melee rangers. I think more so even than EK rangers or bow rangers. I think melee rangers are the ones that are really winning out in this patch. Pretty exciting stuff overall. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed my overview of this and my predictions for rangers going into the future. Excellent patch overall. I might give you guys some more updates on the patch as I play the game a little bit more. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.